There are 4 examples in the Super Bowl era of a quarterback completing 70% of his passes, throwing for 300-plus yards and rushing for 50-plus in a playoff game. 2 of these examples, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, yesterday, both of whom exceeded all those totals in the thrilling display of quarterback play last night. Time now for the deep dive into these games and where this leaves the Patriots. We have Phil Perry and Greg Bedard here with us from the Boston Sports Journal. Before we even get into it, Mr. Bedard, would you like to walk back some of your comments about Josh Allen, whom you've slandered many times?
I am not walking anything back. I think I was accurate during the whole process, but I do indeed surrender to Mr. Allen. He is now elite. He's the Patriots' daddy now. Let's go.
All right, Phil, if he's the Patriots' daddy, how big is the gap between where the Bills are as a team right now versus where the Patriots are? Is that mountain as tall as one Tommy Curran suggested?
I don't think it's all that hard for us to figure out. I mean, they did just play this team twice over the course of the last month, right? And how did that go for the Patriots? And I know the Patriots weren't at full strength necessarily in either of those games. Their defense is dealing with some injuries. Okay, we get that. The gap is not insignificant. And to me, it's because of who you have at quarterback if you're the Bills, but also the pieces around him. I think receiver has become such a critical position in today's NFL because the best teams are driven by their passing games. And yes, that is largely because of who's playing quarterback, who's throwing the football. But look at the teams that were left in the divisional weekend. All of them are loaded with stud receivers, and if they're not loaded with one, they have one of the best in football. The Bills have Stephon Diggs, all-pro talent. The Packers have Devontae Adams, all-pro talent, maybe the best receiver in the league. You need to have those guys around the quarterback to help these quarterbacks be great.
So, Greg, is that how the Patriots close the gap? Like, how do they do that? Do they go after, is it offense? Is it defense? Is it like a combination of both? Because it seems like it is a pretty big gap to close, not just between the Bills, but you also have to factor in how good the Chiefs are. The Bengals are a rising team. The Chargers are a better team.
Well, to me, Trenni, it's twofold. I think they need to get a little bit better on offense at the skill positions. Like, they lost James White, didn't really have anything to go to there. Jonnu Smith was a non-factor. Aguilar was a non-factor. Really, it was Hunter Henry, Jacoby Myers, a little bit of Kendrick Bourne, and Hunter Henry at the end. And you need to, part of the reason why the Bills have become so tough to defend, and Phil's exactly right, it's so many weapons where they spread the field. What am I going to do? Now the quarterback can run. What do I do? But I do think there is very much a defensive component in this. The Patriots have to get a lot better. When you go up against these top quarterbacks, and they're going to be doing that, you have to find a way to make negative plays somehow. A holding call, a sack, a deflected ball, a forced fumble, something like that. The Patriots do not have enough of those guys, and they don't have enough cover guys. Do that on defense, and I think you have a chance of slowing these guys down to a point where you can compete.
Here is the issue, though. When you look at the teams that are left, they're all great offenses. You've got really one great defense of these last 4, and it's the Rams. They're the only top 10 defense, really, in terms of efficiency that's still around. The others are just kind of getting by. And to your point, Greg, I mean, the Chiefs, they do have some talented pieces to be able to get that one stop. If that's really all you're looking for is just 1 or 2 key stops a game. Yep. They've got Chris Jones. Tyrann Mathieu, I know, didn't play last night barely, but he's one of those guys as well. Do you need to load up? Do you need to make it the focus when you already have a couple of nice pieces? I think we'd all agree. Like, Matt Judon's a pretty good piece. Christian Barmore is a good piece. I like where Kyle Duggar's headed in his development. Like, I think if you can't keep up on the scoreboard, you're really up a creek, and I think that's where you need to focus.
Phil, they need more cover guys. Like, even before, they trade Stephon Gilmore,
who are the starting
Jonathan
corners
Jones
for the Kansas City Chiefs? Does anybody know?
Well, they barely survived. That's what I mean. You
need
to have an option on defense, and a lot of these teams don't. The team that does find a way to slow these teams down is going to be the team that can compete with them.
I just think it's borderline impossible to slow them down at times, and you're better off just trying to keep pace offensively.
All right, guys. Well, when you're talking about the Patriots' offense and their defense, let's take a look at where they ranked this year. It was, mediocre. Offense ranked 15th in yards per game, defense 4th, but I think that was a little front-loaded. As for scoring, the offense 6th, 27 points per game, defense allowed 17.8 points per game. That was second best in the NFL. Again, a little front-loaded there. But as we know, what we saw from both units in the latter part of the season, there are major concerns on both sides of the ball. So where did they begin? It seems Curran and Tommy Giles, like they basically have to address both sides of the ball, Giles. So where do you want to see them start? Do you want to see them start on offense, or do you want to see them start on defense?
Well, since they have to obviously address both sides of the ball, I think that if you just identify a number one wide receiver, which again is easier said than done, I think you're pretty much okay on the offensive side of the ball. I think that actually will make a huge difference. Curran, you said it was a cop-out in the first segment of the show. But I tend to agree with you. It's whichever player is kind of available in the first round of the draft or wherever you're taking your first pick, whichever one is going to be your best value at any of the positions in need, which is quite a few on the defensive side of the ball, then you go ahead and get that guy and then react accordingly as far as adding to the other side of the ball.
100%. I mean, when you look at the Patriots against the better teams they saw, they allowed 600 yards practically to the Dallas Cowboys. That was early in the season. By the end of the season, every time they faced their division rival, they couldn't make them punt unless it was a weather-related night. Against even Indianapolis and Tennessee, two teams that are, really, Tennessee is a good team, but they were diminished. They ran for 270. The Colts salted their game away with a 67-yard touchdown run. One game, and it was that one you saw right there, the Chargers, where you said, well, that's a team that you can deal with, and the Chargers don't make the playoffs. So to me, it's get better at corner if J.C. Jackson's going someplace else. And if he wants to go someplace else, say, okay, you're probably not as good as everybody thinks you are anyway. That number one wideout, absolutely. But you also have left tackle and right tackle, which might be concerns. All over the place, they got to get faster. You got a fast guy, you're a fast human, get over to Foxborough, see if the Patriots can use you.
Yeah, so Curran, I would actually argue that maybe they need to focus on offense, only for the simple fact that if you want Mac Jones to take a step forward, you want him to have pieces that are going to help make him better. But my question for you would be, they haven't exactly hit the jackpot when drafting wide receivers and offensive players early in the draft. Do you trust them to get it right and put the right pieces around him?
Based on prior returns, no. I don't have very much faith that they're going to say, hey, this is a guy that fits all the measurables and we're going to do great with it. Why do I say that? Because I've watched, whether it's Hunter Renfrow or Tyler Lockett or Sterling Shepard or Deebo Samuel or Calvin Ridley, the number of guys that we, morons just pushing their laptops around, have said, this would be a good fit here, that the Patriots say, no thanks on him, who've turned out to be good players, is mind-boggling. So, no, I don't have faith that they're going to get it right in the draft. I do have faith that they'll find somebody, but you need electrifying, Giles. You need electrifying players. It's not just Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. There's third guys in on some of these teams. Look at Emmanuel Sanders and Stephon Diggs, complemented by the name of the man who was escaping me, Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, Gabriel Davis was a monster last night, came out of nowhere. Here's the thing. You can't play scared. You can't just avoid taking a wide receiver in the first round just because N'Keal Harry didn't work out a few years ago. You cannot just say, you know what, that's it. It didn't work out that one time. You're going to have to go back to the well. You're going to have to try it again and take a chance at probably drafting a wide receiver in the first round. Again, it kind of depends what's on. You have the 21st overall pick, so you don't exactly know what's going to be in front of you on draft day, and there's still plenty of time for guys to move up and down the board.
And I do feel, guys, like, I don't know if you could get yourself a dynamic offensive player like a Deebo Samuel. Maybe that makes everybody around him look better, because Saturday night, Jimmy Garoppolo didn't exactly look like, I don't know, a world beater. He didn't light up the Packers in that 49ers playoff win over Green Bay. He was 11 for 19, 131 yards, no touchdowns, but he came up big when it mattered most. In the fourth quarter, 5 of 6, 55 yards, helped the Niners drive for the game-winning field goal. That's more than Mr. MVP could possibly do. He is now 31-14 as the 49ers starting quarterback, 3-1 in the postseason in San Francisco. We go four wide here. We got Curran, we got Perry, we got Bedard. Greg Bedard, does seeing Jimmy G do this give you some hope that you don't need a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes, that if your quarterback fits within a system, you can still have a successful football team?
Good question, Trenni. I mean, I don't know. I think the NFC is a bit of a different landscape than the AFC. I mean, I think you do need more explosive plays. You need, you need to be able to sustain offense a bit more in the AFC. And I think that the 49ers, I thought that was sort of a unicorn game. It was like, it was Eli Manning-esque in sort of his performance. And, yeah, that works a couple times. Does it work every year? No, but, I like where the Patriots are with Mac Jones. I know a lot of people don't, but, I think they're in good shape.
If Jimmy Garoppolo was a car, then the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, would drive them to a high-crime area, leave the keys on and the engine running, and walk away. They would be so happy to not have Jimmy Garoppolo. Bill Belichick said, here, take this. And they said, okay. And then it hasn't turned out the way they wanted it to. Phil, when you look at this guy, Mac Jones is more durable. Jimmy would have broke this year. He's already got more poise and pocket presence and awareness, and he's smarter at the line of scrimmage. The Patriots are in a good spot. Thank God Tom Brady played the way he did in 2016 and 17. Thank God. Otherwise, he'd be here.
To me, Jimmy Garoppolo is not the quarterback who's left that should give Patriots fans some hope. I wouldn't be looking at this guy. I think Mac Jones is already, if he's not right there, I think he's even maybe a little bit better. The guy I'm looking at is Joe Burrow. And Mac Jones is not on Joe Burrow's level yet. But nobody was talking about Joe Burrow like he was a top 5 quarterback last year as a rookie. When you look at his performance last season, he only played 10 games. But when you look at his per game numbers and his overall efficiency levels across the board, he's kind of Mac Jonesian. And people look at Joe Burrow's arm, and I will agree, Joe Burrow's arm is a little bit better than Mac Jones's. He's a better athlete than Mac Jones. But Mac Jones can improve in those areas, and Joe Burrow, Trenni, is not a superhuman quarterback by any stretch. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. The things he does physically are not irreplicable. So for me, that's the quarterback I'm looking at if I'm a Patriots fan and saying, okay, we might not have Mahomes or Allen, but maybe we've got Burrow. There's still time.
Look at that. He took
Mr. Curran in the back with a question.
Yeah, no, he took 9. Was it 9? 9.
9 sacks.
9 sacks,
I mean,
friend.
bad.
So, I mean, I don't think that Mac Jones would take 9 sacks. But it's conjecture, hypotheticals. But Phil is exactly right. And Greg, I think if you got an array of players like Joe Burrow has, and a defense who can be a pain in the posterior, who has just enough guys, and the quicks in the running game with Joe Mixon, you can do it. The Patriots are not miles away. Well, maybe they are.
Well, look, I think Mac Jones has a superpower. It's his mind. Not everybody has it. Burrow has it. Burrow does have a little bit of a stronger arm. But you need some sort of superpower. And I think that when you get Mac Jones with more experience, a little bit stronger, all that stuff that comes with being a professional, he's going to be able to decipher these defenses. Did you see? I mean, in that KC Buffalo game, there were a lot of coverage busts, due to the smarts of the quarterback and also the receivers. And I think that Mac Jones can do that.
Curran, this might sound crazy, but does a superhuman quarterback even fit into the Patriots system?
Oh, 1,000,000%, yes. Because then you're rebooting plays once they break down. If you put if you put Josh Allen with the Patriots right now, they'd probably be a 12-win team offensively. You guys can push back on that if you like to, but it's the extending plays and restarting them when something isn't open in the beginning. I'm not talking about running around like a maniac. I'm talking about drifting, pirouetting reverse, and then restarting the play. Josh Allen can run up the middle for 9 yards on a dive on 3rd and 6. He can beat the defensive end to the edge, and he can throw lasers or with touch. You put him here, and it's just so far advanced. Plus the time in the NFL that he has.
I think when you look at it, though, what the Patriots system wants is somebody who gets rid of the football quickly, right? And Josh Allen has grown into someone who can do that, but then he has all of this other stuff on top of it. So it would have taken some time, Trenni, but he would have gotten there eventually. He's there now. If you play certain defenses against this guy, he's happy to take the check down, or he's happy to run on you. He's smart. He's physically gifted. He is an absolute freak. He's
huge credit to Brian Daboll for being patient enough to allow him to turn into who he has, right, Greg?
Absolutely.
All right. Just wanted to make sure.
And it really hasn't taken all that long, by the way, for him to get better. I think we forget he's only been in the league.
But he was a nut.
Years.
He was absolutely unstable in his first year.
Same age as Joe Burrow, believe it or not.